All right, imagine we're just chopping it up about the team right now, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and honestly, it feels like things are building towards something big. But we're not fully seeing the final picture yet. You've got moves that haven't happened, decisions being delayed on purpose, and a roster that could look very different real soon depending on what they decide to do next. This is a crucial moment, so come with me, and I'll tell you everything. Click the like button and, if possible, comment, "Go Seahawks." The Seattle Seahawks are quietly positioning themselves for a series of calculated moves that could define the direction of this franchise heading into the 2026 season. And what we're seeing right now is a front office that is being extremely deliberate rather than reactive, even while fans are growing impatient about the available cap space and the lack of headline-grabbing signings so far. One of the most immediate topics gaining traction is the possibility of adding reinforcements at cornerback, and a name that continues to surface is L'Jarius Sneed. The former Kansas City standout isn't quite performing at the same elite level he once did, and there are clear signs of regression. But the key question the Seahawks seem to be asking internally is not whether he's still a top-tier corner, but whether he still has enough left to contribute in a meaningful role. And that's where things get interesting, because Seattle isn't necessarily looking for a savior in the secondary. They're looking for depth, experience, and versatility. Sneed could potentially come in as a rotational piece, someone who contributes on third downs, competes for a nickel or dime role, and, perhaps most importantly, helps mentor a younger group that is still developing. It's not about recreating what he was in Kansas City. It's about extracting whatever value remains and seeing if there's still something there worth investing in. At the same time, the bigger question looming over this roster is why the Seahawks are sitting on roughly $33 million in cap space, without making aggressive moves. The answer appears to be strategic patience. Around the league, teams are eyeing the June 1st mark as a turning point, and Seattle is no exception. The front office, led by John Schneider, is reportedly waiting to make moves that won't impact future compensatory picks, particularly with an eye on the 2027 NFL Draft, which is expected to be loaded with quarterback talent. That long-term thinking also ties into another name that continues to circulate among fans: Jadeveon Clowney. There's a strong belief that Seattle has interest in bringing him back, especially given his ability to impact both the pass rush and run defense. Clowney is coming off a season where he recorded 8.5 sacks, and his familiarity with both the organization and Mike Macdonald's system only strengthens the case. But again, the timing matters. This isn't about whether Seattle wants Clowney. It's about when they decide to make that move, and how it aligns with their broader roster-building strategy. Now shifting to the quarterback situation, there's a fascinating internal debate developing around Milroe. The fan base is split, and there's a growing sense of urgency from some corners to move on quickly. But inside the organization, the approach appears to be much more patient. Milroe is viewed as a talented but raw player, someone with clear flaws, but also undeniable upside. The coaching staff, particularly under Mike Macdonald, has shown a willingness to develop players and give them time to grow, but also a readiness to move on if those players fail to meet expectations. That creates a very real prove-it window for Milroe. If he shows progress, especially after working with Jordan Palmer, his value could increase significantly. Right now, the trade value might be as low as a 7th-round pick, which would be a loss, but a strong preseason could completely change that narrative, potentially turning him into a much more valuable asset. Even a 3rd-round pick in the future or part of a larger trade package. And with reports suggesting that the 2026 NFL Draft could feature a high volume of trades, this is a situation that feels far from settled. Meanwhile, looking at the NFC West landscape, there's growing chatter about the Los Angeles Rams and whether they've closed the gap on Seattle. The Rams have undeniably made a number of moves, and on paper, there's an argument that the two teams are evenly matched in a perfect scenario. But there's also a major caveat: age. The Rams are heavily relying on veteran stars like Matthew Stafford and Davante Adams, and while both are still capable, the concern is how long that level of performance can be sustained. There's a belief that once that decline begins, it could come quickly. And when it does, it could dramatically shift the balance of power in the division. Back in Seattle, roster continuity is another key storyline. Uchenna Nwosu is widely expected to remain with the team unless something unexpected happens, such as retirement. The organization values him highly, and despite his cap hit, there's little indication they want to move on. Jarran Reed's situation is slightly less certain, but still leans heavily toward him staying. There's a sense that if a departure were imminent, retirement might be the more likely outcome, rather than a straightforward release. And then there's the draft strategy, which feels like classic John Schneider. With only 4 picks currently, expectations are that Seattle will be aggressive in trading back to accumulate more selections. This isn't a team looking to stand still. They're looking to build volume, create flexibility, and maximize value across the board. Even injury updates are playing a role in shaping expectations. Torrey Horton, for example, is still dealing with a calf injury that will limit him during the spring, though the expectation is that he'll be ready for training camp. Still, there's some concern given how long the issue has lingered without much visibility. Offensively, there's quiet optimism about the potential connection between Sam Darnold and Rashid Shaheed. While they haven't been seen working extensively together yet, both have been putting in individual work. And the hope is that a full training camp together will unlock something meaningful. At the same time, decisions along the offensive line remain under scrutiny. Anthony Bradford continues to be a polarizing figure among fans, but internally, the Seahawks appear to view him as a capable starter. That belief is reflected in their lack of aggressive moves to replace him, suggesting confidence that he can hold his own despite not being elite. And perhaps the most surprising development of all this offseason has been the list of departures. The Seahawks have lost several notable players, including Rick Woolen, Boy Mayfield, Kobe Bryant, and Kenneth Walker, all of whom secured deals elsewhere. Those are significant losses, and they raise serious questions about how Seattle plans to replace that production moving forward. So when you step back and look at the full picture, what you're seeing is a team balancing patience with opportunity, development with urgency, and long-term planning with short-term expectations. The moves haven't all been made yet, but the groundwork is clearly being laid. Now the question becomes unavoidable. With cap space available, key decisions looming, and a division that's still up for grabs, do you believe the Seahawks are making the right call by staying patient? Or should they be acting more aggressively right now to reshape this roster? And when you really zoom in on how all of these moving pieces connect, you start to understand that this offseason isn't about one big splash for the Seattle Seahawks. It's about a series of smaller, calculated bets that could either quietly elevate this team back into serious contention or leave fans wondering why more urgency wasn't shown when the opportunity was there. Take the running back situation, for example. After the departure of Kenneth Walker, there's been natural speculation about whether Seattle would look to bring in a veteran like Raheem Mostert. On the surface, it might seem like a logical fit, especially considering the schematic similarities between what Brian Schottenheimer, referred to here as part of a similar offensive philosophy, and Mike Macdonald have run, which helped Mostert thrive during his time in Miami. But once you dig deeper, that idea starts to fall apart. Mostert is now 34 years old, and the production simply hasn't been there recently. In 2025, He managed just 22 carries despite spending a significant portion of the season with the Raiders. And that kind of usage tells you everything you need to know about where he is in his career. This is not the explosive weapon he once was. This is a player who appears to be nearing the end of the road. And the Seahawks, for all their needs, don't seem interested in investing in a short-term fix that doesn't offer real upside. That decision, whether fans agree with it or not, aligns perfectly with the broader theme of this offseason. No panic moves, no desperation signings, only calculated risks. And that same philosophy shows up again when you look at how Seattle is approaching the draft. With just 4 picks currently in hand, a first, second, third, and sixth, it would be easy to assume they'll stay put and try to maximize top-end talent. But that's not how John Schneider operates. The expectation around the league is that Seattle will be one of the most active teams when it comes to trading back. Not once, not twice, but potentially multiple times. The goal? Turn those 4 picks into 6, 7, maybe even more, and create a deeper pool of young talent that can develop within Mike Macdonald's system. And speaking of Macdonald, his influence on this roster is becoming more and more evident. There's a clear emphasis on competition, development, and accountability. Players are going to get their chances, but they're also going to be evaluated quickly and honestly. If they don't meet the standard, the team will move on. That's not speculation. That's already been shown in how the organization is handling situations like Milroe. Now, another layer to all of this is the internal confidence the Seahawks seem to have in certain players that fans aren't entirely sold on. Anthony Bradford is the perfect example. From the outside, many see him as a weak link on the offensive line, someone who should be upgraded immediately. But inside the building, the belief is very different. The Seahawks view Bradford as a legitimate starting guard. Not elite, not perfect, but capable. And the fact that they haven't aggressively pursued replacements, either through trades or free agency, speaks volumes. It tells you that this coaching staff believes there's still growth to be unlocked, and they're willing to bet on that rather than overpay for a marginal upgrade. At the same time, there are hints about where Seattle could go if they do stay put in the draft. Names like Caden McDonald have been loosely connected, particularly as the team looks to reinforce the interior of the defensive line. It's not a flashy move, but it fits the identity they're trying to build: physical, disciplined, and deep in the trenches. And then there's the injury situation, which always plays a bigger role than fans sometimes realize. Torrey Horton's calf injury is one to watch closely. While the expectation is that he'll be ready for training camp, the lack of activity and updates during the offseason raises legitimate concerns. Calf injuries can linger, and for a player trying to establish himself, lost reps in the spring can be more significant than they appear. Still, there are reasons for optimism on the offensive side of the ball. Sam Darnold and Rashid Shaheed represent a pairing that could surprise people. Even without extensive off-season reps together so far, both players have been putting in the work individually, and there's a strong belief that a full training camp could help them build real chemistry. If that connection clicks, it adds an entirely new dimension to this offense, one that could help offset some of the losses Seattle has endured this offseason. Because make no mistake, those losses are significant. Rick Woolen, Boy Mayfield, Kobe Bryant, Kenneth Walker, those aren't fringe players. Those are contributors, and replacing that level of production is not going to be easy. This is where the pressure really starts to build on the front office. It's one thing to be patient. It's another to be right. If these calculated decisions pay off, the Seahawks could come out of this offseason looking like one of the smartest teams in the league. But if they don't, the criticism is going to be loud and justified. And looming over all of it is the reality of the NFC West. The Rams are pushing, the window is still open, and Seattle is choosing a path that requires discipline, timing, and a lot of internal development to go exactly as planned. So as we move closer to the draft, closer to June 1st, and closer to the start of training camp, everything about this team feels like it's building towards something. But we're not quite there yet. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, and click the video that's on your screen right now because all the latest Seahawks updates. Go Seahawks!